Halt! Who goes there? Another worthless man. You dare to enter my kingdom? For what purpose do you have with me? Lady. Why are you in my kingdom? Jennifer and her little sisters. Is that true? Are you unaware of the fact that outsiders are not allowed here? Especially men like you. For all I know, you could be a spy sent by Charles. How do you know Lady Andra? Yes, I heard all of that from Lady Andra. So that was you. You may have known Lady Andra and her daughter, as well as Jennifer and her little sisters, but that does not change anything. After all, it's men like you that are nothing but selfish heartbreakers. Why should I trust you? What kind of human are you? Perhaps I was too quick to judge. I suppose you're not like all the other men I've known. Huh?
Charlotte. My name is Charlotte. Actually, I have heard about you. Yes, Lady Andra and Lady Andra came by my kingdom some time ago. Believe me, she too had me fooled for a long time. Yes, Lady Andra played both parts very well, when she was herself or as Jean. Whenever she would come by my kingdom as Jean, she created such a stark contrast in personality compared to her normal self. At first, I was under the influence that Lady Andra and Jean really were twin sisters. But the more Lady Andra visited as Jean, the more I started to grow suspicious. It only took their recent visit for me to piece it together. Well, Lady Andra told us everything that has happened. From their strained relationship to Lady Andra's strict rules and expectations, to Lady Andra running away to the overworld, all the way to you reconciling the two. After Lady Andra came back to the end, the two spent more time together. They've repaired their relationship and lived like a family once again. Lady Andra talked a lot about their mended relationship. I can see it in her face when she tells her story. She became passionate and noble once more despite her facade. Yes, you can say a little bit of Lady Andra slipped into her guise. Oh, but of course, I'll keep Lady Andra's alias a secret. I'm sure you'll do the same as well, right? I see. Oh, and my apologies about earlier. I had prior personal issues. I must ask for your forgiveness. And yet, you were able to gain the trust of Lady Andra and her daughter. How were you able to do that? Even after saving Lady Andra from the rain, I would assume there was still some distrust. That's right. Lady Andra was a tyrannical leader sometime after she became ruler of the End. I'm grateful that she's reverted to the caring leader she once was. Before Lady Andra changed for the worse, she used to be my mentor. She and Lady Andra found me when I had something personal. I was new to being a ruler of the Nether, and Lady Andra was there to guide me. She taught me how to properly rule a world, to care for the people, to work alongside my generals, to speak properly. You noticed? Yes, I still need improvements. I'm not that great of a leader yet. Oh, pardon me. Aw, thank you. I really appreciate it. Oh, dear me. Where do I begin? To start, there's Lucy, the Wither Skeleton. She's in charge of surveillance, particularly intelligence gathering and battlefield surveillance. In other words, Lucy is the brains of the kingdom and in battle. You can say she's essentially a walking encyclopedia. Let's see, who else is there? There's Patricia, the zombie pigman. Or are they called zombified piglins now? Anyways, she's the floater. However, Patricia is more skilled in the assault or defense role than in the surveillance or reconnaissance role. Along with her diverse skills, she's also in charge of being the medic. The issue is that she tends to do things by herself. She may be rough around the edges, but she's loyal and a good person once you get to know her. It's a complicated matter. I do hope she grows out of it. And then there's Blazette the Blaze. Oh, don't tell Blazette that. She'd burn you for making such a comment. Anyways, Blazette is the explosive technician. No, silly. She just prefers to use her skills to set things ablaze. But there are rare moments where she wants to blow something up. Blazette is much more difficult to converse with than Patricia. She may have a delinquent-like attitude, but she's not a bad person. Then again, I suppose Hilda is much more aggressive than Blazette. Yes, Hilda the Hoglin. She's in charge of assault due to her aggressive attitude towards other mobs, but she does have her limits. Honestly, I'd like for her to get along with the other generals if she wasn't so easily agitated, especially when Hilda is always butting heads with Blazette or Patrina and her sisters all the time. Patrina, the piglin. Pardon me. Patrina and her family tree is quite elaborative and lengthy, so allow me to break this down. Brianna, the piglin brute, is the general in charge of defense. She's the eldest of the piglin family. She's quite introverted, who keeps to herself and keeps a close eye on her sisters, but I can rely on her to defend the kingdom. Her sisters are not generals, but they are there as her support. But dear me, are they outright obsessed with gold and food. Pardon me. Now, in regards to Brianna's sisters, Mona, the second oldest sister, is the designated marksman, considering how skilled she is with a crossbow. Flora, the third oldest, is the marksman support, as she throws special types of mushrooms against the enemies. Then there's the twins, Petrina and Trisha, who serve as the defense supports for Brianna. However, Petrina and Trisha are still in training as they have the tendency to run from a fight. That should be all for the Piglin family. I know it was relatively elaborate and droll. Let's see, who else am I missing? Oh, yes, Myuu, the Strider. And you would be right. However, Sheena is a unique case. Unlike your average Strider, she's fascinatingly agile and can hold her own in a fight. When Sheena was first brought on as a general, she was still in training. Some time ago, she had already mastered her basic fighting style at such a young age and became an S-class Strider. Thus, Sheena has earned her position of reconnaissance, scouting designated areas and reporting to either me or Lucy. I believe that's all of them. Thank you. It's a long story. A long, personal, complicated story. It's okay. You've listened to me quite well so far, and you've befriended Lady Andra, Jennifer, and her sisters. I suppose it's time that I entrust you and tell you my story. Thank you. Now, let me start from the beginning. It all started when I met my ex-husband, Charles. Yes, I apologize for that. We dated for a few years. He was such a lovely, handsome man. One day, he proposed to me, and we were about to get married. The day of the wedding, he hasn't shown up for the ceremony, so I went looking for him. I found him, and he was adultering with a woman I'd never met before. Some tramp named Cheryl. When I found out, I just ran. I was so heartbroken. He was so kind to me. I thought he truly loved me. But to stab me in the back and flirt with that woman on the day of our wedding? After I ran, I stopped and cried my eyes out. And then Lucy found me. She comforted me, and eventually I asked if she would join me. That was when Lady Andra and Lady Andra found me, and Lady Andra took me under her wing. And that was just the beginning. It's okay. You're right that it does. The first time that I wore this, I was so happy. It's the only prettiest thing that I've ever worn in my life. I looked so beautiful. I was ecstatic to get married. Sure, I didn't get the happily ever after story I wanted, and luckily I haven't heard from Charles and Cheryl after that. But I didn't leave empty-handed. I recruited my generals, who turned out to be such wonderful friends. I finally established my kingdom. Thank you. Thank you. possibly. I might save it for a special man in my life. Oh, don't worry about it. But you're right, in a way. Even though that experience was hell for me, I must not allow that traumatic event define who I am. It's time for me to move on. I am one of the rulers of the Nether, and I must work on myself to be the best leader there is, and to stay strong for my people. Thank you. I really value your friendship and support. Oh, right. Goodness me. Where were we? Oh, yes. After I recruited Lucy, I found Patricia, along with Brianna and her sisters. When I found them, they were injured and distraught. That complicated matter I mentioned earlier. When I found them, they were holding their dead baby sisters. Patricia with her younger sister, Patty. Brianna with her baby sister, Pathina, as her sisters were mourning for her. Apparently, before they joined me as generals, they were involved with a shady group. They were too violent, didn't care about the girls, and made them uncomfortable, so they wanted out. The group didn't take kindly to the girls' departure, so they fought, and it costed them their youngest siblings. When I tried to recruit Patricia, Brianna, and her sisters, they were distrusting to me at first. I convinced them that my kingdom would be a safer community for them, and I offered to track down the group they were formerly in. No, silly. Of course that's not their name. According to Brianna and Patricia, this group call themselves Rasturka. Is that the language you call it? Anyways, it seems that the Rasturka are separated into 3 factions. The Piglins faction, known as Vildir, the Hoglins faction, known as Lindarodsvin, and the Undead faction, known as Glossen. I believe you can piece together who was in what faction. Unfortunately, we are still investigating. Lucy and Sheena are doing everything they can. After meeting with Patricia, Brianna, and her sisters, we met Blazette. She was in a bitter, non-talkative mood because of an argument with her ex-boyfriend, Blaze, and she broke up with him. From what I can understand, her ex was unfaithful to her. When I spoke with her, she wasn't having any of what I had to say. Suddenly, Blaze and his guys appeared and ambushed us. Luckily, I brought my generals with me, and they were able to fend them off. However, Blaze attacked Blazette, and she hung onto the edge of a bridge over a sea of lava. You'd be correct, but for Blazette, she... When I saw her hanging on, I jumped in and grabbed her hand. Blazette wanted me to let her go, but I wouldn't give up on her like that. After Blaze fled, I pulled her up. Blazette seemed aggravated that Blaze ran and decided to join us. She didn't appear grateful that we saved her, but deep down, I'm sure she was. Lucy and Sheena are looking into that as well. If you wish to know more about Blaze, you could ask Blazette herself, assuming she's in a good mood. After Blazette, we met Hilda and Zoe. Hilda's younger sister, Zoe's a Zoglin. Yes, originally Zoe was a regular Hoglin who was just as outgoing and hot-headed as her older sister. Before the girls left, the Rasturka found a nether portal that led to the overworld. thinking it could be an opportunity to conquer the overworld, the leader threw Zoe in, much to Hilda's dismay. Nothing was happening for a while. Eventually, Zoe returned to the Nether as a Zoglin. Yes, I'm afraid there must be something in the air that zombifies certain mobs, like the piglins and hoglins. Some of us are not affected, like me and Lucy. Regardless, the Raster Cat decided not to initiate a conquest due to the risk of infection. Oh, no, she was birthed as a zombie pigman. Or is it zombified piglin? In any case, when we found Hilda and Zoe, Patricia, Brianna, and her sisters vaguely recognized them from the Vildir faction. During the girls' time in the Rasterka, they hardly interacted with other factions. So they argued about the hard times they endured in the Rasterka. But eventually, the Hoglins joined us. It turns out the Piglins and Hoglins agreed to have one thing in common: to destroy the Rasterka. Piglins and Hoglins don't interact with each other well, so they were butting heads, so to speak. Even when Brianna lost her youngest sister, Hilda and Zoe managed to leave unscathed during the escape. Although Zoe lost some of her humanity, she's been adjusting to her life as a Zoglin. Likewise, the girls deserve much better than that. I appreciate your offering to help. Lastly, we recruited Myuu. Correct. Impressive memory. Actually, Sheena waltzed into my kingdom and was interested in joining. Yes, she was the first to approach me in such a manner. You should have seen how she was when we first met. With all due respect to Sheena, she was introverted, wearing such a tattered dress and all bones when she was in training. Presently, she's more extroverted, wearing different gear and much more physically and skillfully honed. It wasn't me. According to Sheena, she was trained in an organization at an unknown area in the Nether. No one knows where the organization is, but seemingly there are many Striders affiliated with them. Since Sheena was top of the class, the organization classified her as an S-class Strider. When she recently went back, however, the organization was diminished by mysterious circumstances. Alas, Myuu is the last and only S-class Strider. Yes, though Sheena took this much harder than usual. We're still unsure who destroyed the organization. It may be Blaze or the Rasterka, but the organization are extraordinarily skilled enough to easily fend them off. Perhaps there may be a third-party group out there, powerful enough to obliterate the organization. That about covers everyone. Oh, dear me, you've been listening to me talk for a while now. I hope I haven't been rambling or putting you to sleep, have I? I thank you for listening. You're definitely not like every other guy I've met. Definitely. Yes? Yes, it is true that the Nether was once an ice age a long time ago. I was a mere child then. None taken. Let's see. How much do you know about the ancient builders? was not always like this, all this fighting, how the Nether was. We were at peace since the beginning of time. We all lived in harmony, so there was no fighting. It wasn't just the Nether, but the overworld and the End as well. My parents were the ones that ruled this part of the Nether. They ruled fairly and in union with their citizens. The Ghasts respected each other. The piglins and hoglins were docile. They did not exist back then. All of my generals were not born nor created until centuries later, and none of the mobs thought about setting foot into the overworld. The only mobs at the time were ghasts, piglins, and hoglins. They did not appear until after the Nether became a fiery wasteland. In fact, when the Nether was an ice age, the wastes were the only biome. Eventually, all of that peace was ruined when the ancient builders came in. We welcomed them peacefully, and they thanked us by taking our resources. They took our ice and water, brought in those giant sniffing monsters as large as Lady Andra. The piglins got greedy, too greedy, smelting tons of gold like crazy. The constant gold smelting and stripping the Nether of its ice resources led to exposed pockets of carbon being released, creating a greenhouse gas effect that eventually turned the Nether from an ice age to a fiery wasteland, forming the basalt deltas. We lost all of our ice and water, and we couldn't get those back. The heat was unbearable, but we had to adapt. The piglins even hunted those sniffer monsters, which led to the creation of the Crimson and Warped Forests. Desperate for a new habitat and more resources, the piglins had the idea to invade the overworld against my parents' wishes. When the piglins invaded the overworld, that was the only instance of the Nether and the overworld being merged rather than connected. Either merging the worlds somehow prevented the piglins from turning, or maybe the miasma that caused them to turn outside of the Nether didn't exist yet. Regardless, the war between the Nether and the overworld went on, and every single mob learned how to fight. We lost that peaceful harmony since. The piglins lost and were punished accordingly. A lot of mobs died that day, and their souls turned the soil into soul sand, creating the Soul Sand Valley and birthed the Wither Skeletons. My parents were heavily criticized for allowing the invasion to happen, and disappeared from the public eye, leaving me all alone here. As for why they didn't bring me, I do not know. It's okay. It was centuries ago. At this point, all I remembered was that they were loving parents until they left. In the name of my parents, I will succeed as the new ruler and make them proud of me. I appreciate your visit here. However, I must get back to fulfilling my duties. You may roam around the kingdom as you wish. You may be able to see Blazette and Lucy roaming around. Lucy should be taking a break right now, and I'm sure Blazette is shirking her duties somewhere. Everyone else is very busy with their duties, so you might not have the chance to personally meet them. Hey. Will we meet again? Thank you. Take good care of yourself. Let me know if you need any assistance. See you.